I want to jump now to another Megan Weisenstein, who I've known for a couple years now. Megan was the head of creative for Sprint, Kansas, out of Kansas City. Since the merger, she's now at T-Mobile, but she's also the founder of a company called Boyish, which is boyish.media that you really need to check out. It's a network of women filmmakers, and she's got a compelling story to share with us today too. Megan, do you want to come on?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Hear you perfectly.
So I've got it on 2 different devices, so it'll probably come up on screen that I'm not on, but I'm on it up top. But so first off, I am not an MMA fighter. I do not have a black eye because I fight for a living. I had surgery on my eye, so I just wanted to make sure nobody thinks I'm getting beat or that I'm an MMA fighter. So, anyways, so Boyish, like he mentioned, is really it's a development company for women filmmakers. We have over 200 filmmakers on the platform, and we really, our mission is to showcase their work and then partner with brands and networks to develop content from the female perspective. So the program that we're going to talk about today is called Raise Your Voice, and it was a partnership that we did with a company last year. It was a competition that was really focused around this idea of, how do we use our voice to create change? How do you raise your voice to create change? And so we had over, I think, like 150 submissions, and we chose 5 filmmakers to move forward with the project. And each filmmaker was going to get $30,000 to produce their film. And then we were going to do kind of a behind the scenes of each filmmaker as they produced their film. And then COVID happened. And so the project was put on hold, but we had already told all the filmmakers, you've been chosen. We're so excited. It got put on hold, and then it kept getting put on hold and putting on hold and put on hold. And then they finally said, we're going to cancel it. So we had to call the filmmakers and say, I'm so sorry. We're actually not going to be able to get this film made. So fast forward to today, we have partnered with Vox to do distribution, and now we are looking for a brand partner to jump on board. So, I can share the log lines. Here, I'll share my screen really quick. Maybe, there we go. So I'll go through all that. We don't need to see all that stuff. So Reggie was one of the filmmakers who we chose, and her film is called Not My Class President. The log line is, Nora did not always have political aspirations, but after a series of unfortunate events, she had no choice. So that was one of the winners. Jenna Larson, her film was called Repast, and it's forced to face those closest to her. At her girlfriend's funeral reception, Madison must decide whether to stand up and reveal the shuddering truth of her girlfriend's suicide or keep quiet to maintain the peace. And then Rachel, her film is called Responsibility, and the logline is, despite to learn how to be a better ally, Molly turns to an 80s instructional, I cannot talk today, sorry, tape and finds herself a bit confused on how to raise her voice. Then Emma, In Your Own Time, a theatrical version of what I feel my coming out story could be seen through the eyes of Ada. And Emma actually has not come out to her family, and she was going to use this film to do that. So it's pretty powerful. Then Alana, hers is called Angela, and it's really based around this campaign in England that they started in 2016, that basically they have a word that they say at the bar if they're in trouble, that basically alerts the staff that they need to intervene. So that is the last one. So that's kind of where we're at. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or questions.
I would just quickly layer on, hi, I'm Zach from Vox. The brand storytelling team connected us with Megan, and honestly, I heard the log line and the concept and the fact that this was off the ground and then stalled, and immediately thought, can we help by providing a platform? By way of intro, and a few of you have heard me say this on other chats, but we have a practice called Vox Media Iq, which stands for Impact Quotient, which is our sort of play in the purpose-driven content, storytelling, and marketing space. And what we're doing there ranges from distributing content to helping tell stories and measure them for the brand side of the world, figuring out how you measure the impact of content in the purpose space is or should be different than your like views impression KPIs. And so we're thinking about how do we actually change that with different measurement. And so with Megan, this is something that we're here to help get it off the ground, provide a platform, do this in a way that's much simpler for potential brand partners than were we to come with a big, giant, flashy idea and say, we need a couple $1 million. This is much more, to Megan's point and credit, how can we get this back to life, right? Like there are 5 people who had their shot ready to go who are sitting there waiting. And I think, if we can find the right partner to get that off the ground, that's the least we can do.
I think at the end of the day, the most important thing to me is just being able to get these films funded for these women who thought they were going to be able to, to get their films made. And a lot of them are out of work right now because of COVID. So, so that's really like the most important thing to me right now is just being able to help them and get these films funded.
Megan, can you tell us more about the films and how they were chosen? I know you had a lot of submissions, so selecting 5 must not have been easy. And how were they chosen?
Yeah, so we went through basically a lot of scripts. There was like criteria that we had. They had to have their reel, the script, basically a treatment. But then also the partner that we had really was trying to target more of a Gen Z, which not all of these are Gen Z filmmakers, but a lot of the stories can relate to the Gen Z market. So, so that was something that we also had to kind of put into play. Like, okay, does this story align to that market? And then, this filmmaker, does it align up to the Raise Your Voice overarching theme?
So are these scripted narrative films or documentaries?
Yeah, they're all scripted.
They're all scripted.
Mm-hmm.
And what about duration?
Yep. 3 to 5 minutes. So each film is about 3 to 5 minutes. So they're not feature films. They're just shorts. So.
Mm-hmm. So anybody in the chat here, questions, folks?
Brian asked the question about brand alignment and sponsorship opportunities. So from the perspective on our end, right, like one of the things that I think is a really simple way to think about this stuff for brands, if there's a platform like ours involved, is simply being the champion of it by being the co-brand of a promotion. So it's to say, spend X amount of dollars in media to make sure these things have a platform and see a broader light, so that, yes, Brian, let's do it. That's what I'm talking about.
Man, we should talk. We should talk. Cool. Fredgie's already in the crosshairs to do a project for me with Truist Bank.
Cool.
And they love her. And it's not to take, I'm not familiar with the other filmmakers, but I was super excited when Megan popped her face up and was like screen grabbing to my EP in LA, like, yo, look at this one. And I've been talking to her a lot. She is, if everyone's even close to as amazing as her, wow. Yeah. Because I know I've had many calls with her lately. So very interested in continuing the conversation. Might be able to submit it to Truist. They have a charitable side. They're trying to be a better bank. That's all I can say.
That's awesome.
Aren't they all? I love it. Cool. That's great. Yeah, and that stuff can, right, like that can expand. This does obviously apply to the other projects that we talked about earlier in the conversation, that like we could expand that, or anybody could expand that to do the more brand centric stuff to go with the core project, where the brand needs to kind of both satisfy that I'm championing this thing, but also what am I going to have as assets to go with it.
So Zach, can you explain a little bit how you would distribute this and how it would live on the Vox network?
Yeah, sure. With this, in this use case, right? So without giving you guys the whole Vox spiel, and we have like a minute, we'd find the right brand alignment. In this case, one of our brands is The Cut, which is a brand under the New York Magazine, New York Media umbrella. We'd probably align it with that. Create a project, Raise Your Voice landing page for all the films that we'd release them under. Each one would then have promotional media plan across the network and different platforms, so Facebook or Instagram or YouTube to go with it. I would, Megan and I haven't even really talked deeply about it, but the concept is tied together with a hashtag. So we'd use that platform to get people to actually push and do more around it. And again, depending on how big of a thing we wanted to do with a partner, start building around the thing, be that through pushing with more activations, doing screenings, that kind of thing, turn this into something bigger with experiential components. And as Megan already had planned, maybe there's more behind the scenes that could then build that out, all that kind of stuff.
Megan, how about the production cycle on the films then? If this were to get greenlit, they start making their films, and what's the cycle look like?
As far as timeline or
timeline.
Just how does it? I think we would have to put that on paper. I don't have it at the top of my head, but something like a 3 to 5 minute film would probably take pre-production, post, maybe a month and a half to 2 months. 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to talk to the filmmakers. They're pretty far along on the planning of production. Like a lot of them already have crews in mind, and a lot of them work with women DPs, and their crews are already kind of, who they work with, and already have kind of their plan for for shooting and all of that. So I don't think it's going to take us as long as it would if we were just starting from scratch.
And do all the films have a fully baked script, or they?
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yep, scripts. Yep, that's what they submitted to the competition, was the script. Yep.
Great. Well, let's bring this to life. Brand Storytelling Network. I'm sure there's some other ideas besides Brian on here that can help introduce this to people. I'm sure that this would resonate with some brands that are in our network. We'll figure out how we present that, Megan, because we'll have the video of this to share. But if there's a concise deck or something that we can distribute around to interested parties.
Yep, definitely. I can send that over to you.
Great. Anybody else? Any final questions here before we end our first ever Brand Storytelling Network Story Club? Anybody else?
I have a quick question for Megan and Zach, I guess. What kind of budget would you guys be looking for per film, or what are you thinking from that regard?
Yeah, the original competition was $30K a film. So that was kind of the budget for the films. I can let me.
Yeah. The promotional side, right? Like it comes down to like how much guaranteed media do we want to put against it? I'll be honest, like if we were pitching this project from the get-go out to the world, we'd probably be saying this is gonna an overall cost $750,000 or something like that as a giant media spend. I talked to Megan about this, like if we can get a brand to fund the films and give us $100,000 in promotion, let's do it. Let's get it off the ground. That'll change the level of reach, but like it's gonna depend on that. And then if I get into like serious conversations, I'd just sort of show what that functionally means on paper and where that money is going. But we tend to like tread on, in this kind of use case, on like how much does that translate to into guaranteed reach. So for a brand, it's tapping into those sort of probably already allocated media budgets versus just a content budget.
I'm thinking of a couple different people that we need to contact about this, Zach. And one is, and I'll say it, is MailChimp. who just rescued the short films at South by and did their own film festival platform, really just to support those filmmakers. They're all in on content. They're a very purpose-driven company. I've got, Sarita Alami runs the MailChimp studios there. I think she'd really be worthwhile to talk to. She was going to try to be on this today, actually. So listen, this is terrific. Megan, thank you for sharing. I hope you heal well and quickly. None of us think you're a fighter. I think so. Hey, listen, this is our first shot at Story Club. I think it's terrific. I've sure enjoyed hearing every one of these stories. I'd love to see that them come to life, and if if this is the genesis for that to happen, how terrific that would be. So we're going to do this again. All of you on here who have stories that want to share in the future, and I know there's several. I know Brian Bowen's on that has a great story to share here soon. And I'm sure that Chris Bren and others do as well. So thank you for being part of the first ever Story Club. We'll be doing it again soon, and see you again. Thanks, everybody. Signing off.